All right, another episode of the Sound Powers podcast today. Fucking awesome comedian Jeff Leeson, everybody.
Hey, thank you very much. That's very nice. I love a one-man applause.
Yeah.
It's better than what we've gotten for the last few weeks, which has been a zero-person applause. So I'll take the one. Thank you.
Yeah, man, fucking I'll say this, like, I'm being completely honest right now. You're like the best crowd work comedian I've ever seen in my life, even like
Oh, thank you.
including like TV and everything. It's fucking incredible, man. It's like I've never seen it not work, and I'm like, but I'm sure like at some shows it must not work. Do you have like a backup plan if like crowd work isn't work? Does that ever happen? Is that impossible?
No, man, it never doesn't work. It always fucking works. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, thank you. First of all, I really do appreciate that's very nice of you to say. Um, so yeah, it doesn't work a lot. It's just I think what I learned over time just from doing this job for so long and doing comedy for like my most of my life at this point
Mm,
is to just keep like when one thing isn't working, make a very quick change. But that with with jokes you have um what do you call them, segues, right?
mhm.
And with crowd work, it's kind of a jump cut. It's sort of like you go from one person to another, but the key is like trying to figure out on the fly, okay, this isn't working with this person, but I like the way that person looks and I think I can draw a lot from them, so how do I jump from one to the other without making it look like I'm defeated? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so it's a way of trying to figure out like how would that person connect to this person, and then trying to jump over there. And I think that's what I learned over time, to focus on that. How do I get out of it rather than being in it and being like, fuck, I'm dying right now,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great answer, man. You've been doing comedy over 20 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I started when I was 14. Um, yeah, I started in high school, and then pretty much by the time I graduated high school, actually, when I graduated high school, the year that I graduated, I went on I booked myself an 11 city tour that summer. And it was just all Ontario shows at these really small bars. And for the most part, it was just me. It was just a single person, one man show, for what I thought was going to be 90 minutes, being,
Mm.
I think, like maybe 60 at best.
Damn, that's crazy. So you had no opener, like no host or anything. It's just you the whole time.
Yeah, for most of them. I think there was two where there was like a local comic or something like that jumped
Mhm.
on the shows, but for the rest of them, it was just me.
And like, did you just have like a straight up act back then, or were you doing crowd work back then too, or?
I was doing a little bit of it, but I was very nervous about it, uh, just because I was that was really up until that point, from like 14 to 18, I was really just doing amateur night shows and talent shows and backyard barbecues and like anywhere basically that someone would give me a mic and give me time to talk, I would just do that. And then when I started doing those shows, I thought I had a lot, I thought I had a lot of material at that point, and just learned very quickly that I didn't. So I would do my act. My act would bomb most of the time, very like hard. Then I would start talking to the people a little bit, but very nervously.
Mhm.
That would occasionally save me, um, just because they would do something, or I got lucky with something, or hecklers I was always pretty good with for whatever reason. I think that's just from growing up, like in my family there's a lot of ball busting,
Mhm.
but like you had to be pretty quick, so I think that's where I got that from. And yeah, so I would do these shows where it was like, I probably did like an hour total show, and I realized that I had maybe like 40 minutes of material, and of that, maybe 12 was good.
Wow, damn, that's crazy that you like went on that tour right out of high school, like, and you started so young, and you're still doing it, and you're so good. And
I don't know
it's
how
like,
I booked that tour. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh, are you really? Fuck,
Yeah,
I thought you were like I thought you were like 21 for some reason.
yeah, I
You
got
got
this
to
baby face. Yeah,
Yeah, man. Good for you. You get ID'd a lot? You
yeah,
must.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Um Also just the way that like that looks like a gaming headset, is it?
yeah, yeah. It's yeah,
Yeah, like the gaming headset with the fucking hoodie there,
yeah.
and then the cartoon shit behind you. I'm like, this is a child I'm talking to. No, 29. Wow.
I feel like I'm
Um,
a member of an audience member of your show right now, getting roasted. I
no,
love
yeah, yeah.
it.
This is hilarious. It's yeah. I'm actually I'm rattled right now that you're 29. I got to be honest. I can't even wrap my head around. But so this is how I booked the tour. Was I mailed in the like uh posters and a written letter to 100 bars
Wow.
all over Ontario, all over. I should say like southwestern Ontario, you know, I wouldn't say nothing up north, nothing like too
Hmm.
far. I would say within. I lived in London, Ontario at the time, and so it was within maybe 3 hour drive any direction of London, basically. And I sent out 100 of them, and 11 of them booked it.
That's awesome. That's actually incredible. If you tried that now, it wouldn't work at all. It's
No,
like,
no, nobody would see I would call and be like, I mailed you something, and they'd be like, why the fuck would you do that?
yeah,
We have
yeah.
we have an email address, you idiot. But yeah, email was I think email was like it was probably a thing, but it wasn't as what it is today. And obviously there's no social media, no, I don't even think texting was quite a thing yet. It might have been like chat rooms on the internet, I think were where people like texted shit. But yeah, so mailed them out, wrote a letter, signed it, poster. It was called Laugh It Up. It was the Laugh It Up tour. And it was a picture my buddy took, and then he did the design for me. And yeah, it was horrible comedy, terrible shows, but probably the biggest learning experience of my whole career.
That's awesome, man. Did you ever feel like you ever like wanted to quit? And like, if you did, like, how'd you get through that? You still there? Your screen froze.
Hello?
Hello? Oh, I think I
Oh yeah,
lost you
there
for
we
a
go.
second.
Sorry, yeah, yours. Oh, I see. It's my connection, man. Yeah, something weird's going on here. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Are we good now?
Yeah, it seems to be good now.
Okay, yeah, I lost you as well there. My
Hmm.
apologies.
It's all good, man. Did you hear anything I said?
No, I did not.
Okay, so I just asked like, if you ever like felt like, did you ever like want to quit comedy or anything like that, or were you just?
Yeah, yeah, all the time, man. All the
That's
time.
and
I'm
what
still
makes you
thinking
like?
about it now. Now that we're in this fucking mess, I'm still going through that shit in my mind, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have thought about that. I'm gonna say I've thought about that at least uh I'm gonna say at least 4 times a year for the last 15 years. The
Damn.
first five, I was just excited because I didn't get much stage time. So, I was on stage, every few weeks or something like that. So I was just excited to be in it. And then, yeah. So yeah, I would say like that's accurate. For the last 15 years, probably 4 times a year. I'll have a thought. I'll have like,
Mhm.
you know, what am I doing? It's usually what am I doing? And it's typically after a horrible show, and um usually if you know, if there's or if there's a stretch where I have no shows and because of that no money is
Mhm.
coming in, then at that point it'll be time to once again reconsider whether or not I should put myself through this. But usually what gets me back is, what the fuck else would you do? And then I think about sitting in an office. I think the only other thing I could do that I have any training in is sales, because it's very closely related to comedy. You're selling yourself to an audience,
Mhm.
and I've booked all my own shit for the last 20 years, so I've had to, be in sales. I think that's the only thing I would do. I would want to make the most amount of money, so it would have to be in like real estate or insurance or some shit like that. And then immediately I think, well, what would that entail? And that entails a fucking desk and doing shit I don't want to do. And then I'm right back to comedy.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure, man. I hope you never quit because you're fucking awesome. Like, were you like before of this, obviously this quarantine stuff? Were you like always touring? Because it seems like you're just like always doing different cities and stuff. Do you ever like just chill at home? Or fuck, I think I lost you again. Did you get any of that?
Different cities?
So okay, so I was asking like, were you like before this quarantine shit? Were you like just constantly touring like all the time?
Yeah, pretty much. I was actually, as this started, I was in Los Angeles
Hmm.
and I was doing mostly shows in the US pretty much from January to March of this year, all throughout, and like all kind of throughout the US a little bit. And then we were based in LA for a while. And so doing a lot of the West Coast stuff, like we did Vegas for a weekend. I got to go to Utah, Arizona, Texas, California, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, man, and especially last year. Last year, I spent almost the whole year on the road across Canada, which was really a lot of fun and something I always wanted to do. But yeah, the plan actually this year was um, based out of LA for 3 months, get on the road. Uh, I think it was going to be like mid-April, and and then tour all across the U.S. Come back up into Canada, do a run here, do that into the fall. Start. I usually have a pretty strict schedule, September to December. That's shows all throughout, and then corporates at the end of the year for like Christmas parties and stuff. And so it was going to be doing that, and then right back to LA start of next year for pilot season again.
That's awesome,
Obviously,
man.
that's been interrupted. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
obviously for all of us, but yeah, that was the goal and the plan, and really, yeah, I gave up my apartment right before I went to LA, and the plan was basically live on the road for the next year, and sort of base in LA for a few months at a time, but still
Mhm.
touring all over the California, Arizona, Nevada, all over that area, and then get on the road and go all over the U.S.
That would have been awesome, man. What's it like doing comedy in LA? Like, I've always wanted to do like the comedy store. I'm sure that's a dream for like so many comedians, right? Did you ever get to like do the comedy store?
I did not get to do the Comedy Store, no. So basically, how it works in LA is the Comedy Store is like the mecca of the whole comedy business there.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to be on the stage. There's 3 stages there.
Hmm.
They have a very odd, like, I don't know, pecking order, I guess, or like how you get into it. There's sign up sheets. You have to get there hours and hours. You basically get there in the middle of the afternoon to like sign up. You stand around, you wait in lines and wait to see if your name's called from a bucket. There's all these ways, and that's kind of similar at all of them. Like the Improv, Laugh Factory, and Comedy Store is the main one. So the other thing is, everyone who works at the Comedy Store is a comic, so they get on shows because they work there. And then there's famous people who drop in all the time and they get on shows because they're famous. So even if you get picked or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get on. Sometimes you're on at like, because they do shows from 7:30 to like 3 in the morning.
Holy
So
shit.
yeah, you can get a spot at like 1 a.m. For 7 minutes or whatever. So my I would love to do the Comedy Store. That would be awesome, and that's certainly like it was. I went to a bunch of shows there, which was fucking wicked,
Mhm.
and it was great to. We went in all the rooms and saw shows in all of them, and how different the rooms are, and the energies and stuff like that. It was a really cool. Saw Harlan Williams and Neil Brennan and um, who the hell else did we see on this? Jamie Kennedy was on one of the shows. Adam Carolla. So that was really cool to see. See these people that are famous and stuff like that. It's really cool to see, but couldn't really get on the shows. And honestly, my focus is more on touring and being on the road. That's my as opposed to the club stuff. Not to say that I wouldn't want to do it or don't, but I was really focused on touring and especially submitting for stuff. I put in, I got in touch with Comedy Central and HBO and Netflix, and a lot of management companies and agencies as well. So I actually was really felt like I was making had a little bit of momentum right as
Mhm.
this happened, and things were slowly being pieced together in the way that I wanted them to allow more touring. So that's my dream. My goal is just get on a tour bus and be on the road all the time doing the best venues in the world, but specifically North America.
Do you think like because of all this COVID shit that like comedy is gonna like change now forever, or like is it ever gonna be like back to normal?
Um, fuck. Like, I don't know, man. I hope so.
Hmm.
I think it's going to be a long time um, before it does go back to what it was. At least,
Hmm.
we're going to see, just like everything else. I guess it's a process of, it's a slow process, little by little. We'll have, we'll have, you can only have 20 people in a room, which is like that's a great open mic. That's like
Hmm.
for some open mics, they're getting two people that didn't want to be there. If you had to have 20 people in a room, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll start slow, like you're allowed 20 people, then you're allowed 50 people, then you're allowed. I think it'll be a long time until we see a jam-packed, sold-out crowd. That'll be
Hmm.
a long time. Um, and I'm sure it'll be weird, like comedians might have to wear masks because we're using a microphone and you're sharing it, or we each have our own microphone, or something along those lines, or you have to wipe your hands or some shit. They have Purell on the fucking stage. I mean,
Yeah.
there'll be changes and odd shit to deal with.
Hmm.
But I don't think that's forever. I
Yeah.
don't. I think eventually, it might take a couple of years of that slow stuff, but eventually it'll go back to being packed and being kind of normal. But it's gonna take some
Hmm.
time. It's gonna take a long time for sure.
Word, yeah, for sure. Um, Back to like your whole like crowd work style. I love it so much. Like, one thing that I noticed that like with you is
Thanks, man.
yeah, no problem. It's good stuff. But like with like I remember like you'll let like the audience like say stuff, and sometimes they say something like hilarious, right? And you just like instead of like with some people they might like feel defeated. Like I remember like seeing like this person in the audience say like get this crazy big laugh, and you just like ran with it and got an even bigger laugh than them somehow. You know what I mean? You like expanded on their joke and made it like 10 times better even, and I was like, damn, this is crazy because it was like there's no way you could have thought of like any of this stuff before. I don't remember what you even said exactly, but like it's like it's crazy to watch. So like do you like have anything like set up so like oh, maybe this guy's gonna say that he's a fireman, and then you have like some fireman joke in like the back of your head or something, or is it just all freestyle essentially?
Yeah, I don't have anything. Now, I don't have anything prepared. It's not like if he says fireman, I say
Hmm.
this. However, I have done this now for so long that there is a lot of people where I see the same jobs.
Hmm.
And sometimes my mind will go, oh, remember this guy from that place and you said this, but a lot of times I don't remember what I said, so it will be a natural reaction, or I'll remember a piece of it. I might remember like, oh, make sure you end on this because they really popped on that at
Hmm.
whatever show. But for the most part, no, it's I'm really in the moment. And I feel like I'm really working with the audience. I'm not working for them, and
Hmm.
I'm certainly doing a performance for them. It is performing, but I feel like we're working together, you know. And so if you say something hilarious, why would I be mad? That helps my
Yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah.
And then we're a team now, so you hit one to me. Now it's my responsibility as the guy with the mic on the stage under the lights to to be a professional and take whatever
Mhm.
you've done and say, okay, now I'm gonna hit this back, or I'm gonna knock this shit out of the park. Um, and so I really feel like in that case it's a team effort. On the other side, there's a lot of times where audience members say something really stupid or really dumb, or something
Yeah.
not funny at all, and I have to clean up their mess. And that's, that's a challenge for me as well. But it really is all in the moment, you know, uh, sort of reaction. It's very
Mhm.
much about reacting and not about like, oh, I hope you say this because I have this really good line prepared. It's really more about like, I want I want to I want to give these people my honest reaction. This is what I really just thought of. Nope, nothing pre-planned. This is just a challenge for myself. Can I take anything you said to me, no matter what, and and create something from it? And I love the challenge of how far can I go? How oftentimes there's someone who will say one thing, and that thing will come back 100 times in in other people's, not planned, but randomly. That person will say one thing, and then I'm talking to a person over here, and they say something, and I go, oh, you mean like that? And now
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
connected. And then someone else will say that, and I go, oh, you mean like this guy did? And then they're connected. So that's another challenge for me. And that's, while I'm on stage and while I'm in that moment, I really like to challenge myself to, how can I connect everyone in here? How can I keep this flowing too? Because you don't want it to get stale. You don't want people to think like, oh, you're picking on that person, or you're going hard at them or whatever. But sometimes there's a lot of meat on something they say, and sometimes there's very little, and that's the challenge, is to figure out. And then do you use all that meat right away? Do you use a little bit now and then save it for later? And that's all in the moment. That's happening right there.
Fuck, man, that's a great answer, dude. Um,
Thank you.
if there's comedians out there that want to start like doing crowd work, what would you recommend they like? How should they approach that for someone that's like never done it before?
Yeah, that's a great question, man, and it's one I get asked a lot. What I always say is, do so. For me, I did years of scripted jokes. I
Hmm.
did a set for years. um, I think it was 10. I think it was like the first 10 years, 9 to 10 years. It was like very written out. I would veer off, I would do little things. Um, but it was more about heckling and more, a lot of times to fill time. But I always was coming back to my jokes. And so I would say the best way to be good at crowd work is to get very good at comedy in general, at like
Hmm.
just straight stand up. Learn how to write a joke, learn your style, who you are. what type of comic you are, your identity on stage, that kind of thing. And then when you're comfortable with the writing process and you're comfortable with the performance, can you do that on the spot? And then challenge yourself, like, okay, now I know how to write a joke. I know what a punchline is. I know what a segue is. I know all these, I know the basics. Now, if I ask somebody something and I get 2 to 3 pieces of information from them, can I create a bit out of that right here, right now on the stage?
Hmm. Awesome, man. Fuck yeah. Um, who are some of your favorite comedians?
Sorry, I'm sorry. One more thing.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
The other thing I always say, the other thing I always tell comics is don't do crowd work too early in your stand-up career,
Hmm.
because it can frighten you and veer you away from it forever by saying, like, oh, I'm not good at this, I can't
Right.
do this. But that's not accurate a lot of times. It's just that you don't know the fundamentals enough yet, and you don't know the basics, or the you don't have the speed to write the jokes, or the quickness or whatever at that time. But if you give it more time, a couple of years even,
Hmm.
and or if you're a person who's doing 150 shows a year or 200 shows a year, little shows, then you're going to grow faster than someone who's doing like 20 or 30 or once a month. So I would say always give yourself that time to learn and then try it out. But I've seen a lot of people who are like, I suck at crowd work, and it's like, well, how do you know? You've done this for like a year. You have no clue what you're good at or bad at yet.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
next.
where I was at. Like, I actually had that feeling where I didn't want to do crowd work because I just thought, like, I was so scared. Like, it's scary to like jump into that because like you don't know what's gonna happen. It's like what if they're just like fuck off, don't talk to me, and it's like oh no, like then what do you do, right? It's like, or what if it's not funny? What if I can't think of anything funny? At least I know my jokes are usually funny and they land. With crowd work, it's just like a scary thing to jump into.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Great answer. Because I know, like, I have a lot of comedian friends that listen to this, and most of them don't do any crowd work. And you're the crowd work master. What are your influences or comedians that you love?
Um, well, I would say, all time, probably my favorite comedian from when I was a kid is Jerry Seinfeld. Still is.
Hmm.
He was kind of the guy that he's kind of the first comedian I guess I noticed, or was like, man, that guy is so good and so funny, and I just loved his observational style and his
Hmm.
everything. And then I loved the show, the Seinfeld show, but it was really his stand up that I really loved, and I was kind of like him for the first couple of years. I would say I was very clean and was looking at the observations of life. So I was also like 14 and 15, 16 years old, so I didn't have like life experience. So that I really was looking at it like observing the world as a fucking child, uh, trying to figure this life out, and then kind of trying to make it funny. But I was talking about my parents and my mom and my grandma, and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But observations about them, and then I really got into like a more personal style of storytelling, which was really like I loved. Uh, I really watched Just for Laughs and Comedy at Club 54 every day from the time I was probably 10 till 20 years old. They were, or 18 years old or whatever. Um, it was on TV every single day, 3 o'clock and 3:30. So I would watch like Adam Ferrara. I remember had like a standing ovation at Just for Laughs. Andrew Gross, who's a Canadian comic from Alberta, he had like the best set I had ever seen on Comedy at Club 54. Glenn Foster was on he was on Comedy Club 54. He was on a bunch of Just for Laughs. Mike McDonald he was probably on TV every other day when I was a kid doing stand up, and he was amazing. So I would take these little chunks. That's what I really enjoyed, was they were 7-minute chunks,
Hmm.
and I would get all these different styles and different um, views and opinions and all that kind of stuff. It was amazing, and it was the greatest education and comedy that you can ever have every single day for a solid hour. And it was incredible. And so I would say that was like, to me, George Carlin was huge. That was my mom's favorite comedian, so I really got into him a lot when I was a teenager and stuff. So I really had a very wide range of comics that I really liked, from musical comics up to storytellers, observational comics, one-liners. Like, I just was a huge I was a fan of the game, man. I was just I studied it. I wasn't even laughing. I wasn't sitting in front of the TV like chuckling. I was sitting there like studying, basically. It was the only thing. I was terrible in school. I hated studying, but I knew when I got home, like, that's my time to really, focus. And it was great. It's the greatest education I've ever had.
That's awesome, man. I used to watch that all the time too, Club 54, and then I actually did it once. Like, obviously now it's way different. It's not on TV anymore, but and I'm sure you've done it too, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? So oddly enough, Ben Guyatt, who is the host and booker of that show, was among maybe he might have been the first, but one of the first people in Canada to book me as a headliner at Club 54. And
Wow, that's awesome. That must have
and I
felt so
was,
good, man, because like you used to watch
dude,
it.
dude, it was like unreal to me. It was, I mean, at that point, it was literally a dream that had come true. I mean, I was very young. I think I was maybe 20 or 21, maybe. I might have even been 19, to be honest with you. But I had done shows there for him as an opener, um, I think 3 times, from 17, 18, maybe 19. So I think I was about 20. So it was like once or twice a year. No, maybe it was 4 times. So I think it was twice a year over 2 years. And every time he gave me a little bit more time. It was 7 minutes, then it was 10, then it was 12, then it was 15. Um, and then he, eventually he saw that I was working the road a little bit. I was touring a lot in the US, like as an opening act. And eventually he just said, "Hey, do you want to, might have been a co-headline at first time for 30 minutes. And then it was full headline after that." But it was, yeah, man, it like, I remember thinking I made it. I remember thinking at that time, like, holy shit, I made it. And this is it. And it wasn't filmed. I wasn't on the TV show. I
Hmm.
just thought I made it because I was in Club 54 in Burlington, this thing, and it looked exactly the same. And when I walked in, the set, everything, the stage, it looked like what I saw on TV. And I was like, holy fuck, man, I can't believe what's happening right now. I have made it. I am here. And yeah, it was a tough show. I'll tell you that. It was not great. I was really nervous, sweating. For some reason, I kept rubbing my nipple like this on the stage. I don't know why. I've never done that before, but I videotaped it because I wanted to remember it. And I remember watching it, and my mom and I were watching it. My mom's like, What are you doing?" And it was like, honestly, man, every 5 seconds, like a little tick, I would do that. And then I'd talk more, and then I would do that. It was so fucking stupid, really weird. But yeah, it was great, man. And I've done
That's
it a
so
bunch of times since then. And honestly, every time when I've walked in there is like this feeling I get. There's like a chill or it
funny.
was just like, man, it's almost like, I think 12-year-old me inside is like, dude, we used to watch this. This is fucking
Hmm.
insane. You watch this on TV. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I had that same feeling, man. It was crazy, and I was so like nervous and stuff. And I only did it the one time, probably because like I kind of bombed. Like I kind of recovered a little bit, like with my one-liners and stuff. But I feel like they could sense weakness there. Like the audience is like, they could tell
Oh,
that.
they're brutal, man.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
eat you alive because they're mostly fundraisers that they do. So a lot of people that are there, they're there to support their friends and family and pay money to the fundraiser, they don't give a shit about the comedy. They're just there to have fun. So if you don't grab them, if you don't like fucking hit them hard right away, they'll turn on you pretty quick. It's a very intense crowd. Tough,
For sure.
very tough. Like one of the toughest and strangest crowds to navigate. The other thing about them, for the most part, is you can have them. You can be up there for 40 minutes, have them for 38 minutes, and lose them for 2, and they will think you were terrible.
Yeah, that's crazy. Fuck, man. If you had your own podcast, have you ever had your own podcast? Actually, I think that might be a possibility with you.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I have taped a bunch of them and filmed them. Right now, I'm very focused on video production stuff and getting a lot more content out through video, specifically YouTube and Facebook video. So what I've been doing is taking the ones that I originally filmed and recorded that are like an hour long. They're in podcast form, but I've been chopping parts out to use as content on YouTube. And basically my goal there is to kind of see if people really enjoy the shorter interview section and I'm getting good feedback, then I will take all of them and upload them as podcasts episodes in the future. So in answer to your question, yes, I do have a podcast technically. I just haven't released all of them yet until we see how the video stuff goes. The other thing for me is I'm not a huge podcast listener. I love video. I watch stand-up and interviews and stuff. Like I would watch a podcast like, Rogan and stuff. I watch those on YouTube, but I never listen. So that side of things to me is very unknown and it's not something I think about. So I've really put a lot more time into the video aspect of things. However, I do realize how valuable and important podcasts are and how popular they are right now. Although the other side of it is, everyone seems to have a podcast. So how do you make any leeway in that direction? Although everybody has a fucking YouTube channel too. So both are very difficult to make any leeway. And I'm just trying to really sort of, not sort of, but really trying to build a fan base if I can, and then my own lane, kind of build my own lane, and then see what they want. If it seems that I have a group, a solid chunk that would want to listen to full length interviews, then that's what I would start getting them out then.
Yeah, I'll link all your stuff, that whatever you want me to, in the description of this video. Your YouTube is just your name, I'm guessing, right? You there?
Uh-oh. There we go.
Again?
You're back. Yeah, I heard you. I heard you, but something happened there. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that would be great. Just the YouTube channel, Jeff Leeson Show on YouTube and Instagram too. Apparently this Instagram thing is really big. So
yeah,
I keep hearing about it. So but yeah, thanks, man. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really trying with this YouTube stuff right now. I'm doing like one of these a day, and I'm almost at 500 subscribers, which isn't that many, but like still, it's like I'm getting like a couple every day slowly.
Absolutely, man. And you're doing the right thing. I mean, that's for you to be almost at 500 even. How long have you done this? How long has your YouTube channel been around?
I think it's been like basically since like quarantine shit started. Like I had 4 subscribers in one video before this quarantine shit.
But like, which was around March, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I mean, that's that's really key. Is the content is very key. I mean, to go from 4 to almost 500 in 2.5 months is excellent growth.
Well,
I
like
think,
half of them are probably my friends and family, to be fair. You know what I mean? Like everybody
of
from Facebook. Yeah,
course, you got to utilize friends and family when you can.
yeah.
Absolutely, man. But that's really good, and good for you for doing it. I mean, a lot
Mhm.
of people don't do it. They think about it. They have ideas. They say, I want to do this, but then they don't. A lot of people talk themselves out of it because they think, well, who the fuck is going to listen to this,
Mhm.
or who gives a shit, and who, I don't have millions of people that are waiting for me to put shit out. So then they don't do it. But how do you get those people? You got to do it. You got to do the work and then build the people. It's not the other way around. The people don't come to your door asking for shit. You got to put it out there and slowly build it. So good for you, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and I'm trying
For
to.
such a young kid too, for this 17-year-old
Yeah.
kid in his room with his fucking headset on. Who knew?
You should see the earlier episodes, man. It's my unmade bed in the background, and then I had to change it. I was like, okay, enough of this. you know?
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great though. Good for you.
Thanks, buddy.
Good for you. Prodigy. This kid's a fucking prodigy.
If you didn't know me and you saw me in the audience, you'd probably pick on me, I bet, right? A little
Uh,
bit.
That's a good question. I get that a lot, actually. People say that a lot, and it's tough to tell. It would really
Mm,
depend on two things. One, what you're wearing and how you look as an appearance. But two, and this is probably the more important one, is if you're having a good time,
mhm,
and which I'm sure you would because you like comedy. But my goal really is not to offend anybody. I don't want to make someone walk away being like, fuck, that guy picked on me all night. What the hell?
mhm.
I don't want that. I want them to feel like, dude, that I was part of that fucking show, man. I was in
Yeah.
the show. I was the show. Um, that's my goal. So as long as you were having a good time and I looked like there was something I could get from you that would be valuable. And if I'm curious about your story, like if I saw
Mm.
you and I wanted to know, like, I wonder what that kid does, or probably 100%, I would ask, how fucking old are you?
Yeah,
Are you even allowed to be in here? Are you of age?
yeah.
So that, yeah, most likely I would talk to you. I'll tell you my favorite story that ever happened with an audience member. It's my favorite thing I've ever seen. I was doing Absolute Comedy in Toronto,
Mhm.
and there's this guy in the front row, this older gentleman, whose name I cannot remember, but he had like an old guy name, and I asked him, about his life basically. And he was this old guy, very well put together. He had like a little tie on with a sweater vest, not vest, but a sweater over top with a tie. And and he looked very, he looked successful. Turned out he was a professor, and I could tell just by talking to him that his life was boring, and and by design, he just seemed like a guy who didn't need a lot, and was happy and was laughing and stuff. What was his name? Ken? Might have been Ken. I can't remember his name, but anyway, um, so so I get this information from him, and as I'm realizing that his life is very mild and boring and stuff like that, I thought, I'm going to go the opposite way here. So I created a story about how when he was coming up, when he was younger, he was this wild man professor, this guy who was like a rogue that was nobody could tame him, and he was doing coke off of hookers' asses, and he was he was getting hammered with his students or whatever, and was this like wild guy. And then he, later in life, he settled down and got married. And this guy was fucking loving it. I mean, this guy was, because it's not him.
Yeah,
And I created a story about how he was throwing parties, and he was
yeah.
doing keg stands, and everything came back to him too. That was the other cool thing, is everyone's story. It was like, talking to another guy who was like a tire salesman, and then what were you like in college? Were you anything like Ken, who was a fucking wild man? And, would
Yeah,
always come back to him. And so the end of the show, where everything sort of comes back, I do this like wrap up of everything, right? And of everything that was talked about, sort of a full callback of everybody's story and stuff.
yeah, I love that.
And,
You're so good at that, man. Yeah,
thank you.
I love
And,
like that thing you do. Go on, sorry.
thanks, man. No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So as I'm doing this like wrap up thing, his story ended with, and after this, we're gonna all do Jaeger bombs with Ken. Okay. And who clearly has never done a Jaeger bomb in his life. I don't even think he knew
Yeah.
what it was. Okay. So that was the end of the show. I finished the show. I go into the green room, and then I always like to go out and just stand in the lobby and just kind of thank people for coming and spending their money and all that kind of stuff, because I do appreciate it. It's it's really nice of them to do that. And so I walking out to the to the bar area, and as I come around the corner, there's Ken standing there, and there's a lineup of 5 guys all holding Jaeger bombs, ready to do them with Ken, ready to come up and cheers them and give him a like a basically do a Jaeger bomb with him. And
That's
every one of
amazing.
them, I see Ken have to be like, no, I'm so I don't drink. No, I'm so sorry. Thank you very much. And then another guy would come up, and another guy, and another guy. It was unbelievable. And he was like, he couldn't get out the door. People were coming over to him. Oh my God, are you Ken? Holy shit, it's very nice to meet you. Like shaking his hand and shit. He was like a fucking celebrity. And it was so cool. And you could tell he loved it. His wife was very unimpressed. I'm not gonna lie. She did not care for the how many girls I had him fucking in college and all
Yeah.
that. She didn't care for that. But he was loving. I mean, you could tell this was like something he had never experienced before. And this guy couldn't go 2 feet to get to the door without being stopped by somebody telling him what a fan they are. Ken, I love your work. Ken, you're a fucking inspiration. It was great. My favorite thing I've ever been able to do for an audience member.
That's fucking awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. I bet Ken is like, it probably was like an awesome moment I'll never forget, I feel like.
I hope so, man. I hope so, because I certainly haven't. And I do that. I try to do that for someone every night. And for that guy to have stuck with me, I really hope that has stuck with him. I hope his wife, I hope she got over it. I hope that
Yeah.
I just hope he didn't have to deal with too much, shit in the car on the way home. But I think for him it was worth it, because it was really cool to see, and something that he definitely had never experienced in his life, which was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to comment on something you said a little earlier when you said you pick someone that's having a good time to like I don't know, like to do crowd work with. I don't know what the proper wording is there, but yeah, which is interesting to me because I feel like a lot of people would probably want to pick like the one guy that's like sitting there with his arms crossed, not having a good time, and single that person out. So like,
I have done that,
mhm,
but for me, that I noticed that guy right away. First of
mhm,
all, like that, or anybody that's like that, I can spot them out of. If there's 500 people in a crowd, I'll tell you who's not having a good time.
yeah,
But it's the challenge there for me really is, can I take that person who's doing this,
mhm,
and can I make them have a good time? Do they want to have a good time?
okay,
Are they there because somebody dragged them there and they don't give a shit and they're missing the game and they don't want to have a good time? Or have they just not gotten something they need yet? And so I really, I have certainly tried to do something with those people, and a lot of times it's worked, and sometimes it doesn't. But you learn,
mhm,
pretty quickly. I'm really good with facial stuff now. I'm really good with facial expressions on people. If I even look at you, I can tell if I look at someone. If they go like that, I know, all right, let's not traumatize this fucking person. But if I look at them and they laugh or smile or nod or give me some, then it's like, okay, I know that you're going to be fun to sort of play around with. So I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, and I certainly don't want to piss anyone off, and that's
Mhm.
why I want to try to find the people who are at least having they're at least look like they're enjoying the experience, and then try to go somewhere with them. Not that it always works, and certainly sometimes there are people who are, ha 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 ha, and then I look at them and they're like, oh, no, so again, I don't want to get into those people's lives.
Yeah, yeah. This just popped in my head. I feel like I might as well share this with you. My parents, I've dragged them out to a bunch of comedy shows, right? And they always hate the comedians that do crowd work, but they've seen you, and you're the only one that they actually loved. So it's
Really?
like, yeah, and I'm not bullshitting you at all with this, like, and it's like, what are you doing that's like different than everybody else? Like, why are you like the one? And I feel like there's got to be other people out there that are like, oh, fuck crowd work, you know what I mean? They just don't like that style.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, I think if those people saw you, they would like you, because it's like, man, you're doing something like special. I feel like, I think it's like maybe what you were saying earlier, where it's like you were like, you don't like pick on anyone. You know what I mean? It's like you're never like being mean. It's like you're like uplifting with your crowd work, where it's like sometimes people with their crowd work, it's like they're a little bit mean. Maybe, I don't know. Is that it?
That's certainly part of it. I think um, I think also it's based on curiosity. Like I'm not forcing something to be
Mm,
funny. I'm genuinely curious. I would
yeah.
want to ask. I would want to ask people questions if I saw them at a restaurant, if we were allowed to go to restaurants. But
Right.
if I
Yeah.
if I saw someone that's sitting there and I saw something about them, like I see people all the time, and I always think, I wonder what they're like, or what do they do? What
Mhm.
does that guy or what does that woman do? I'll see like their hair is a certain way, they have a certain facial, feature, or their clothes. A lot of times it's clothes, shirts, and all that kind of stuff. But long hair, short hair, buzz cut. Like I'm always it's very, it's based in curiosity, which I think that that might, because a lot of people are people watchers, right? You see
Mhm.
someone and you think like, I wonder what that guy's deal is, or I wonder what that guy does. And so I think maybe it's like, once people realize I'm not trying to offend, and I'm not making fun, and I'm not here to point at somebody and go, hey, look, you're the fattest fucking guy I've ever seen.
Yeah,
How fucking fat are you piece of shit? That's not, that's funny to
to
some
me,
people. Some
yeah,
people would laugh, right? Some people in an audience are going to laugh at that. Other
yeah.
people are going to be like, whoa, that was a little harsh.
Mhm.
And then how is that person going to feel, right? So I've really found a way to um, tap into my own personal curiosity, and then be able to use that as the starting point. And
Mhm.
then from there, the challenge is, can I make whatever the answer is to my actual curious question, can I make that funny? And then
Yeah,
I think that's maybe what people are picking up on, is like, oh, he's not mean spirited. He's not hurting anyone. This guy's just a curious guy with a microphone.
yeah, like that. I think you're right with that. Like, you do seem like very genuine, like on stage. Like, in real life, do you ever actually go up to people and ask them questions, like when, like, just at a restaurant or whatever?
No, no.
Yeah.
I've gotten into it a couple of times with like um waiters, like wait staff,
Yeah.
bartenders, a little bit, like, but no, I think about it all the time.
Mhm.
I think about it all the time. I'm terrible to go to dinner with, because I can never focus. I'm always this, like, I'm always looking around and
Yeah.
just curious about like, what the fuck. Especially if I see like a couple, like I always want to know, like, what the fuck are they talking about right now? And
Yeah.
I try to study, do they look happy? Do I think they're about to break up? Are they getting a divorce? Like, what the hell's happening here? So yeah, I've never really done it. I've never just gone up to a table and been like, excuse me, I'm sorry to do this, but I was sitting over there and just wondering, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But no, I've never done that.
I feel like that make like a good YouTube video of you doing crowd work with like random people walking by in the street or whatever, something along those lines.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I did actually do a video. It was like for a restaurant. They hired me to do like these promo things, and one of them was go table to table, but it was more about the food and their experience.
Mm,
But I would have loved to have gone table to table and like found out more about them. But we had to stick to the restaurant thing. But
right.
yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea for a YouTube video
Yeah.
of just picking random people. And with no shows right now, it's maybe my only option at this point.
Yeah, because like doing shows was like your bread and butter, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
now what are your plans? Like, can I ask that? Is that rude to ask? I don't know.
Well, you've already asked it. I mean,
Yeah. Wait.
it's out there now. You've asked. You can't ask and then ask if you can ask
Yeah,
it.
my bad.
That's not how this works. Um, yeah. You know what? Right now, my answer would be I really have no idea. It's
Mhm.
just a waiting game for me to see like what, I've seen a couple comedy clubs in the US. I think also one in Manitoba and BC now are starting to open at half capacity.
Oh
And
shit, that's awesome, actually.
yeah, so I've seen that. The other thing is I've been in contact with a few of the shows. Like I lost over like 35 shows that were booked between March, whatever the date was that everything stopped, and middle of June. And so I've gotten in contact with those, and a few of those are rebooking now for July, as early as July, and then some for September and some in October, depending on where they are. A few in
Mhm.
the States and a few in Canada. Now, there's no guarantee that that's happening, and I don't know what that means for audience. Like, I don't know if that means we're half audience, 20%. What that means, but so right now my main focus is on the content side, utilizing social media, trying to, there's a handful of people that have come to shows over the years that really seem to enjoy what I'm doing, and so I'm trying to keep those people entertained during this time by putting out more content, doing a lot of stand-up videos, and getting that stuff out there to try and build the fan base a little bit more, so that when I do go back on the road, hopefully I can sell more tickets and and then hopefully get back to the way things were eventually. But I'm not too sure how long this is going to go on. The gigs that are booked for July, I don't know. Like, I'm hesitant to say whether or not those are going to be 100%, even the ones in September and October. But hopefully, and so hopefully it gets back to at least being able to do shows, even if they have to be reduced, crowd numbers.
Mhm. What about like these Zoom shows? Have you done any of those? Would you?
So far, I have not. Um, just because I feel like they would make me sad in a way, you know,
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
and I respect people who are doing it. Honestly, the hustle, and you got to do it. You got to do
Mhm.
something, certainly. But yeah, man, I haven't done it yet. I've avoided it because I remember the feeling of being on stage. I remember the energy. I remember
Mhm.
what that feeling is like. And even just talking to you now, there's a few times you've laughed during this, which is bringing back the nostalgia of a crowd laughing, but it is in no way the same thing as being in it and being able to feel energy. I feel like you can see people, so you could comment on them, you could
Mhm.
hear them laughing, but you can't feel the energy, and that's a big
Right.
thing for me. I miss that energy and that live, that live crowd feeling. So I have not done the Zoom shows yet. I am in talks with a brewery in Sarnia, Ontario, to start doing some Zoom shows that I host. and then just kind of pitch it to other artists. I think there's a few musicians and comedians and stuff like that, which I'm a lot more comfortable with doing that than just like trying to do a full set, over Zoom. So we'll see how if that works out, or if that's even a possibility in the future. But yeah, I can't bring myself to do it without that true energy of feeling that live crowd.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely not the same. It's a completely different thing. If you end up doing that brewery show, let me know. I want to check that out because it'd be cool to see like what you're like in a Zoom room. Because like, would you still do the crowd work and like stuff in a Zoom room like that? You think?
I would try it. I depending on what it looks like. Like I've never even been in it to see how it looks and what I can see of people and how they all like, what am I visually looking at? Because it's different, right? If you're on a stage looking at a crowd, you can
Right.
see the majority of them and kind of know ahead. The other thing is I can sort of, as I'm watching all the live, if we're doing a show, I'm watching the show, so I'm kind of seeing people and clocking things in my head, like that guy might be good or she might be good to go off on this, or oh, look at that hat, make
Hmm.
sure we do something with that. So I don't know what I would do. That's the other thing. I don't know. Like I don't know what would end up happening. I got a lot of jokes. I got a lot of stuff I've written,
Hmm.
especially in the last few like 2 years probably. I'll something will pop into my head, so maybe that would be the place to try those. I'm not too sure. See, to be honest with you, I'm just deep down hoping we can get back to live shows, whatever that means. 10 people, 15, 20, like whatever that means. I want to feel that energy again. That's really, my main thing on that. But the hosting, I would host, and that gives me a chance to, because I could, riff on a bunch of stuff hosting and
Hmm.
stuff like that. It wouldn't need to be like like a set, a show. It would just be bits and pieces, which I think
Hmm.
would be a lot better on Zoom for what I do.
Word, man. Word.
Word indeed.
Yeah. I'd say that way too much. Word. Uh, like why do
What
you
does that even mean? Do you know?
it?
Word?
It's kind of like it just like it encompasses a lot of stuff. It's like pretty much like okay or yeah
Right.
or I agree or
Okay, that's
sure
what
or
I
like any
thought.
of
Yeah.
those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Word. Word, man. Word. It's funny too because I said words. I said
Yeah.
more than one word. So you would think it would be like words. You're acknowledging
Yeah.
words. You said words. But it's just like word, man. Word.
Fuck, dude. Like, what made you start like comedy, and like, what was it like? Like, do you remember your first show like 20 years ago?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I do. Um, man, what made me start comedy was in school we had to do speeches every year on something. Um, you could, I think, for most grades, you could pick whatever you want to talk about. Sometimes there was a theme, but when I was very quiet when I was like a student. I didn't I did not like school. I didn't give a shit about school. I didn't want to be there. So I just shut the fuck up and sat there and like sort of did my work. Sometimes didn't really care. Listened to the teacher and stuff like that. Wasn't a class clown. Wasn't getting in trouble. All that shit. So I would every year make a speech, and for whatever reason, just naturally, it had humor in it. I just was a naturally, like, it came naturally to me to speak in public and to make people laugh. And usually with my friends, I was kind of funny and sort of the guy making jokes and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really that speech stuff in school. Then when I was in grade 8, there was a vote for who would be valedictorian of the grade 8 graduating class. And so we had 3 grade 8 classes, and all classes voted for one representative that they put up against the other 2 classes. And then 3 people were nominated. That went to a vote, and then over all of the grade 8s, and then whoever won that vote became the valedictorian. And my class nominated me, and I went up against 2 girls who were the 2 most popular girls in our school. Everyone knew them and had known them since grade 2. There was a girl named Kim. She was supposed to be the valedictorian. Okay. If you asked anyone in that school who will be the valedictorian of our graduating class from grade 4 to grade 8, everyone would have said this girl, Kim. The next girl was a girl named Ashley, and she was just the best looking girl at the school and the most popular, did all the sports, was in all the clubs. So it was down to them. And then me, the third guy that got thrown in. And so I won. I beat them. And they voted for me based on solely speeches. That's it. It was nothing else. I was in no clubs. I played on no teams. I might have played baseball, I think, a little bit. Otherwise, it was based on nothing, and but speeches. Just this guy gives a good speech. He's funny on, when he's public speaking. He's got, he's funny, whatever. That was it. And so I was shocked. I'll never forget. I went home and told my mom. I go, Mom, I think I got voted like valedictorian or something it's called. And my mom's like, yeah, that's funny. Good one. And I'm like, no, seriously, they put it to a vote. And she's like, you are the valedictorian, or they are doing a vote about and I'm like, no, I think I won. It seems like I'm doing this. And nobody could believe it. It was I remember my best friend, this guy named Justin, he was like, dude, I can't believe you beat them. That's it's like he wanted to almost demand a recount. Like, that's how shocking it was. So anyway, so I do this speech, right? And I put humor in the speech. At the end, I got this standing ovation from the whole school, everybody's parents, however many people are there. To me, it was 5,000. It was probably like 500,
yeah,
right? But they're all standing. Dude, I'll never forget this. I'm 13, 14 years old. I back up from the podium. I'm like, I have my speech in my hands or whatever. I'm doing this, putting the cards together. As I laid it down, I look up and I just start to see people popping up in the front. And then I see in the back. And then I look over and there's 5 teachers, or 3 teachers, and the principal and vice principal. They all start to stand. And then I start to look around. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it, because I start to look around and I'm like, what the fuck? What? And they're all standing and clapping. It went on for, again, it probably felt like 30 minutes that they stood there and clapped. It was probably 20 seconds, but it was, to me, it was like, whatever I just did here, whatever this was, I need to feel that every day for the rest of my life. It was the biggest high. It was no drug. I haven't done drugs. I've smoked weed and done mushrooms, but that's about it. But there's no drug. There's no roller coaster. There's no fucking race car, fast, anything. Nothing will ever feel the way that felt. And so that basically was what I have been chasing, that feeling, for 20 years of my life. And every time I'm on stage, every time there's a great show, even if it's a bad show, at the end, it's like, well, you still got to do what you love to do. But when it's great and everything's working, and especially if, sometimes I'm lucky enough to receive a standing ovation, and I go back to it in my mind. It takes me right back to that 14-year-old kid who's like, man, this is what we wanted. Can you believe this? This is like, I was just a kid. I was just a kid who was like, dude, that was so cool the way they all stood up. And now I'm man who's making him do it again in a much different scenario. And so that was it for me, man. It's that chase of that high that I'll never forget.
Man, that's an awesome, unique story, and I think I've actually seen you get a standing ovation once at one of your shows. So that's man, that's so sick. Like fucking nobody had like had that same experience. I bet like anything close to that. Like everyone, like no one starts comedy that young. So like, do you think you had like just a huge advantage over all of us that started in like our 20s, like just because you started so young?
Um, it's so in a way, yeah, because it's been so long, and I was a kid. Like I really learned this, learned a lot when I was a kid. But the negative for me was life experience. So I didn't have much when I was 14, 15, and 16 years old. I was, I hadn't done much. I hadn't experienced much. People who start later, people who start mid to late 20s into their 30s, some people start in their 40s. They have all this shit that they can draw from. And
Mhm.
so I think they're better faster as a result of that. For
Right.
me, I was horrible, man. I was horrible. I was fucking terrible at stand-up comedy. I did not know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to be funny, and I knew that I could speak publicly, and I knew I could make stuff funny. But as far as like stand-up and connecting with an audience, I mean, most audiences didn't like me because I was so young. I would go up and they would look at me and be like, "Whose fucking kid is this?" You know?
Yeah.
So I couldn't make that connection because they're not like, oh, this is a person like me. Like it, I had no connection to them at all. So that was really tough. And as a result, I was horrible for a long time. I don't think I was really had any good grasp of it until maybe I was 19. And at that point, I had done it 5 years. And even then, I wasn't good. I was passable, you know?
Mhm.
By the time I was 21 and opening, doing opening spots and opening at clubs and stuff in the US primarily, then I was good enough to be an opening act. I was a good enough person to be on the stage, but took a really long time. And I think that's just from lack of experience and anything else. So I think in a way, where I gained stuff was I gained experience on stage long before other people, but where I lost was the experience aspect of it. And I think people who start later certainly they have so much more to go on, and I think they're better quicker as a result of that.
Mhm. Do you remember the last show you did before this bullshit?
Um, yeah, yeah.
How'd it go? Was it a good one or?
It was okay. Just sadly, like I was in California and I was doing a comedy club that's in a resort, and it was the weekend. We were there Thursday to Sunday.
Mhm.
So Thursday there was 50 people. It's probably a room of 300 that can fit like 300, maybe 250. So Thursday there's 50 people. Friday there's two shows. First show there's like 20 people. Second show there's like 15. Saturday there's 15 people at the first show, maybe 10 at the second show. And Sunday was the day that they announced everything will be closing as of Monday. And
Mhm.
so zero people showed up on Sunday,
Fuck.
and and that was it. So I just saw the decline throughout Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So the last show I actually did was the late show Saturday. It was okay. It was for 10 people. Um, Everybody was nervous and scared because it was right at the time that, people are getting anxious, and there's huge news stories, and Trump's on TV every day talking about it and stuff, scaring the fucking shit out of everybody. And so the people, it was in a casino too, like it was a resort casino, all that. And so people are in the casino wearing masks. The way people were looking at each other was just like, stay away from me. 10 people are spread out of this room, nobody in the front row, because they don't want to get, they're nervous. So it's like, how the fuck do I connect with these 10 people that are spread out in a room of 300?
Yeah.
So it wasn't great. Wasn't a great show, but 2 weeks before that, or maybe the previous weekend of that, I taped a special for Dry Bar Comedy in Utah,
That's
and that
fucking
was like,
awesome, man.
yeah, and that was probably the best crowd I've ever seen. They were unbelievable, and so that is, and then on the Saturday I went back and I did Las Vegas, and that crowd was incredible as well. So I count those two really as like my last two. When I think back on it, that's what I try to think about rather than that weekend, because I mean that was just the weekend everything was falling apart, and it was not a good time, not fun.
Mhm. Yeah, I just started like getting into dry bar as they were blowing up, and then David Green told me you were gonna be on it, which like I got so fucking excited for. But I didn't know if it got filmed or anything, so I didn't want to bring it up if it was like I was if you were scheduled for it and never got filmed. So is it gonna be on YouTube then? Like,
It's gonna be out. It's gonna take a couple of months. They said,
Mhm.
when did we film? We filmed in March, so it'd be like April, May, June, July. It'll probably be out. I'm guessing around August or September. I haven't heard anything about it, and I know that their production schedule. They got most of them filmed for my season, so I think maybe 2 weekends of it got canceled, or maybe just one.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure what happened in Utah because it was a little different than like I was in California where it was crazy. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure on if their releasing schedules getting pushed back or whatever. But if everything works out and it's because I know they're doing a lot of content right now too, just to
Mhm.
keep up with everything. So hopefully it'll be out by August or September.
Mhm. I think it should
But
be
I
like
was
it should be really
what's
good for
that?
you, and like, it should be good for your career. I think, right? Like dry bar is like
Hopefully.
uh
Hopefully, yeah. It's a huge thing. Like they have a massive following, and I was talking to a couple of people that work sort of behind the scenes, and they were
Mhm.
saying like there is a lot of comedians that they went from um they went from an opener to a headliner because of Dry Bar,
Mhm.
or they went from a club headliner to a theater headliner because of Dry Bar. So, you know, that would be for me. I would love any opportunity to do bigger venues and better venues and stuff like that. I'm always open for. So yeah, hopefully, it was an amazing night. It was the audience was just unreal. No alcohol, um, no drinking, very clean, nothing like you
Yeah.
can't swear, you can't even say hell or damn or oh my
Wow.
god. You can't say any of that shit. So
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was tough, and especially if you're someone like me who doesn't have a scripted thing, that was very tough to like keep in my
Mhm.
mind. But the audience was just like, man, I can't say enough about them. The Provo, Utah audience, man, holy shit, they were amazing. And so hopefully it looks good. Hopefully hopefully what I felt in that room comes across on camera. So we'll see. I'm very excited to see it. I still have never seen it.
Mhm.
So I'm very excited to see it, and I'm very excited, hopefully, for it to come out in the next few months.
Yeah, man, me too. Like I'm fucking pumped, and like I think it's gonna make you blow up, and like uh we've never seen anything like that on Dry Bar before anyways, right? Like I've never seen crowd work on Dry Bar. So it's so sick that they had you on.
Right, right. That's to my knowledge, I've watched a lot of Dry Bar. I haven't seen anything quite like that.
And like with them, like I've never like when I was first like getting into it, I didn't even notice it was clean. It's just like good comedy on there. You don't even notice there's no swearing really. Like it was David Green, he told me it's like it's all clean, eh? And I was like, "Oh, really? Wow."
Yeah, yeah. They've done such a great job. They have a great team too. Like just they were amazing, right? From you get there in the afternoon, they go through some sort of uh, pitches, I guess they call them, like because you do your set and then at the end you have a chance to like talk to the audience, like through the camera. So
Mhm.
they film those in the afternoon. They get you like dinner they just ask like, what do you want? Like it was unbelievable. I was sitting there starving, and they're like, I'm like, okay, where can I go around here? I don't know where I am. And this lady comes in, and I go, excuse me, where can I get some food? And she's like, oh, no, you don't get food. I will get you food. What do you want? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is unbelievable. So yeah, and then they had like menus. They brought out like menus. You write it down. They go get it. Like it was. She goes, did you have lunch? And I'm like, no. Oh, and then she's like, well, we owe you like a lunch and a dinner, so we can get you two. It was crazy, man. And they're such a well-oiled machine too. Like everyone knows their job so well. Everyone knows what they should be doing. They know it's really incredible the way that they run stuff, and their facility, their equipment, everything. It was really, really cool to be a part of.
That's awesome, man. How'd you go about like getting in contact with them? Did you like how do you even apply for something like this?
Dude, okay. This is so crazy that this happened that way. There's a comedy club in Utah that I submitted to work the club.
Hmm.
The guy who books the club also books Dry Bar. I did not know that. He writes me back and he says, we've received your submission for this season of Dry Bar. We appreciate it. We're taking a look at your stuff.
Hmm.
Here are dates that we would shoot. Are you available? Here's what you get, and here's how it works. Are you in, and we'll get back to you. And I'm like, whoa, that was awesome. I knew what Dry Bar was.
Yeah.
I just it never occurred to me to submit. So I don't hear from them for about a week. And I'm like, ah, shit. So I write the guy back and I'm like, hey, man, I just wanted to touch base with you, see if you guys had reviewed everything. What's the deal? And he wrote back and said, I watched your videos. They're good. However, you do have some swearing in them. So I don't think you're right for this, this show.
Mm.
And I said, like, in my mind, I knew it was a huge opportunity, so I knew I didn't want to lose it. So I thought I'll make one plea for myself and see if that gets me anywhere. And so I wrote back and I said, hey, listen, man, I'm very, I'm improvisational. My show is made up on the spot. I do a ton of corporate work every year, which I do.
Mhm.
And you have to be squeaky clean for that. And I said, here are 3 reference letters I've gotten over the years from corporations that I've done shows for. And in all 3 of them, they mentioned how clean I was. And in one of them specifically said, we asked him to be clean. We were very unsure. We were very nervous, and he knocked it out of the park. And I wrote back to him. I sent those 3, and 3 days later, he said, "Can you do March 6th?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I can." And that was it.
That's fucking awesome, man. I love that you kind of like applied by accident, and then like once you got your foot in the door, you just like to give it like the reference letters and everything. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
So
it
cool.
was. I was very lucky. I got very lucky that there must have been some kind of mix-up, or this guy, was receiving all these submissions
Yeah.
for the Dry Bar stuff that he just naturally thought, oh, this is another comedian submitting to
Yeah.
the Dry Bar. So I got very lucky in that sense, and it was weird because I never applied for it, and then all of a sudden I was in the running for it. So now I'm like, oh fuck, I want this. Then I get a no, like, no, we
Yeah.
can't do this because you swear, and I'm like, I didn't even want this, and now I'm upset that I don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and this is another thing, like, for a lot of people that would have been it. They would have just
Mm.
said, oh, well, I swear, and I can't do a clean show or whatever, and just that's it. But I knew that I could do it. I knew it was going to be a challenge. I hadn't done a clean show since my corporate stuff in December. But I knew it was going to be a huge challenge for me. But after I filmed, I had done this other special a couple of years ago that is a little dirty, and I did another one I think in 2016 that was very dirty. And I was actually thinking I would really like to do a clean version of this. That was my next goal. So for that to have ended up coming to me like that was so strange. And then I'm just very grateful that that the reference letters and stuff like that were able to help me get on there. And then, we'll see where it goes from here, but hopefully it all works out.
Yeah, man, that's fucking awesome. It's gonna work out. I know it. It's gonna, like, how could it go wrong? Has anyone ever had a set on Dry Bar where people are like, "Fuck this guy"?
Um, well, yeah,
Oh,
they
really?
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, except they've never aired it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was talking to the staff there, and yeah, there's been a couple. So they do two shows. They do an early show and a late show, and
Mm,
they've had a few of the late shows crowds turn on a couple people.
mm,
But the early show, now for me, the early show was unbelievable. The late show was slightly less great, but still awesome. Um, but that first show, I mean, there was nothing like that. If you're bombing in a crowd like that, then you're doing something very wrong. And they book professional comics. Like, it's, they're not booking amateurs to do that show.
mhm,
So very rare that somebody, and it's very rare. It's like maybe, 3 or 4 people have ever had a terrible set, but it's always the late show, and it's never aired. So, that's again a testament to what they're doing
mhm.
there.
So wait, did you do like the early show and the late show, or you just do one?
Two shows.
And then they like cut in between both or something? Is that how it works, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
they cut them
cool.
both together. And
Huh.
for me, I'm there. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because obviously my shows are improvised, and then a wrap up at the end. So
Yeah.
there's 2 full shows and 2 full wrap ups that they have to choose from. I would say, if I was to guess, I would say they're going to take 2 bits from the second show and put them in the first show, and then use the rest of the first show, and then the first show wrap up, and the 2 bits that they use, they just won't be in the wrap up, which is,
Hmm.
that's fair. But
Yeah.
that'd be my guess. I think that's the right move.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we've been talking for over an hour now. I don't know how long exactly, but man, I really fucking appreciate this. You were fucking awesome, and I actually learned a lot, and I'm excited for Dry Bar, man. Is there anything you want to plug, or?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this, and congrats on the success that you're experiencing here, especially early on YouTube. And good for you for doing this, and keep going with it, man. Don't stop doing it. I think, not that I think you would, but every once in a while, it's nice to hear that. Just keep doing this, and it's a cool
Mhm.
thing you're doing here. And thanks for having me. All I'll say is, check out the Jeff Leeson show on YouTube, Jeff Leeson comedian on Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. You're the man.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See you, bud.